As we're nearing the end of the year, a thought comes to minds of gamers everywhere. What will win the title of Game of the Year? Specifically, the award ceremony held by Geoff Keighley. Now, some of these games will probably win Game of the Year in other award shows and events, but I'm going to focus on this one. Now, there are several strong contenders. I'll go with the ones that I think are the most notable. This one is pretty long, I'll leave some timestamps if you just went to TLDW, as these aren't in any really particular order, but of course I'll leave my prediction winner for last. I'm going to start off with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. A sequel to the original 2018 open-world RPG. It's received great praise as a good successor, as it picks up right where the first one left off. As an open-world RPG, it's great, the combat is robust, but still allows for different playstyles and strategies. Like many open-world RPGs, if you wanted to, you don't even have to fight anyone, you could talk your way out of situations, sneak, and I think that's a really big strength in the game.
Self-defense.
As a Game of the Year contender, I do think it's a bit weak. Like the last game, it really only had a cult following, and not any widespread notoriety, but I do look to see if it wins any side awards as well, as the attention to detail in the game is very akin to something like Baldur's Gate 3, the previous Game of the Year winner. Jumping ahead to Metal Gear Solid Delta, a remake of the original Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, reimagines the original 2004 game with a fresh coat of paint. The epic, stealth-based action set pieces don't disappoint old and new fans alike. However, all the performance issues with the game have caused some disdain among the fan base, but the game still remains in mostly good light. Fans of the Metal Gear series have showered the game with great praise and recommend it as a good starting place to get into the game genre. As a Game of the Year contender, I personally don't think it's very strong. While remakes have had past nominations, they haven't been very particularly popular. However, I could be proven wrong. Along the same lines, we have Monster Hunter Wilds. The newest game in the Monster Hunter series was released with great anticipation. While the gameplay and essence of the game were up to player standards, the unoptimized state of the game quickly became a meme among the fan base, as the game was bombed with negative reviews at the time of release and even now. But in essence, the open world RPG has really the same compelling gameplay that got fans into the genre in the first place, with of course some additions here and there to spice it up a little bit. Now, I think the game does have the widespread attraction it does need to win Game of the Year. However, I don't think it's the correct type of attraction, as fans are pretty disappointed with the way Capcom is handling the game overall. Now, onto our yearly Nintendo release. Donkey Kong Bananza has very clear elements of their past critically acclaimed games like Mario Odyssey and a previous Game of the Year winner of a different event, Super Mario Galaxy. Going across different worlds, completing goals, and hope of finding your way back home in the platformer style that Nintendo has gotten so good at making. However, the game is stuck on the newly released Switch 2 console, which severely hurts the reach that the game has. However, it could still win Game of the Year, as Nintendo have demonstrated themselves with their past winner, Breath of the Wild. It's very much possible to win with just a console-based release. But with the current lineup of games, I think it would be very difficult for a console-based release to win. Now onto our From Software game for contention for the year. However, it's not really what everyone was expecting. Elden Ring Nightreign adds a new roguelite spin to the beloved Elden Ring combat system, or Soulsborne genre that From Software is known for, with great bosses and good multiplayer implementation. However, the game itself is a bit light in terms of content, as many call it an asset flip in order to make some more money, as it features many bosses and enemies from previous Soulsborne titles. However, the game still remains in good reviews, and it might win some side awards honestly, but I don't think it'll win Game of the Year. However, personally, I do really like this game, and I would recommend you play it if you have the chance. Okay, now we're going to move on to some of the heavyweights. Death Stranding 2, the latest in games from video game mastermind Hideo Kojima, an action-adventure game with vast world building and compelling writing. as the name suggests, is a sequel to the 2019 critically acclaimed Death Stranding, which won some of the side awards back in 2019, after being in some tough competition against 2019 winner Sekiro Shadows Die Twice from Software. Death Stranding 2 shows off all the quirkiness of its director just as much as it did in the first game. Yeah, Kojima knows his player base a bit too well, maybe. But overall, Death Stranding 2 is a great game, and it's definitely in contention of Game of the Year, and I wouldn't be surprised if it did, honestly. But personally, I think some of the other titles that we have here give it some really tough competition. Okay, now let's talk about Split Fiction. Split Fiction, inherently a co-op title, but that doesn't make it any less of a contender, especially as we have seen with past winner It Takes Two not only being a co-op game, but it's actually developed by the same dev team, so that might give them an edge as they know what works and what doesn't work in a co-op title. However, unlike It Takes Two, which is a game about rekindling a dying relationship, Split Fiction is an interesting meta-commentary on the role that writers take and how they're taken advantage of in the industry. If anything, the game's a masterclass in storytelling and shouldn't be taken at face value, as it really shines a light on some of the inner workings of how media is made and how it really should be consumed as a consumer. I wouldn't be surprised if this won Game of the Year either, as, you know, as the same developers, they really do know how to make a compelling cooperative experience, and they should be in on discussions for Game of the Year. Okay, this game I personally am very excited for. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a debut game from Sandfall Interactive, a French game studio. Taking heavy inspiration from JRPGs like Persona and Final Fantasy. But what I personally think sets Clair Obscur apart from the rest of the titles in this video is the amazing world building, out of this world character development, if you know you know, and an absolutely fire soundtrack. And the fact is, the game is French, inherently, and it will shove it in your face, and you will like it.
Leurs souvenirs, leurs rêves, l'amour qu'ils se vouent les uns aux autres.
When playing the game, you can really feel that developers actually genuinely care about the game that they were making, and we're freed from many AAA or quadruple A titles nowadays, companies breathing down their necks, telling them to hurry up, make a game so they can make profit off of it.
Ladies, could I interest you in a duel?
Definitely a gesture.
They know how to have fun, and that's honestly what matters. If it wasn't for the next entry, I would honestly say this is Game of the Year, as it would be amazing to have this debut game be Game of the Year. But however, if it doesn't, I am definitely looking forward to what Sandfall Interactive has to offer, because they really showed off they have the passion for the industry and they can do amazing things, and I am so excited to see what they can do.
I will never join you again.
There will be a lot of fighting though.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's true.
There will be a lot of fights.
Exactly.
Count me in then.
Good.
If anything, go play the game for yourself, as honestly, it's worth the experience. Okay, now like Clair Obscur, this game has a really rough development over the past 6 years, but unlike Clair Obscur, it didn't break Steam servers. That's right, I'm talking about Hollow Knight Silksong, a game that started development because Team Cherry realized that their original hit Metroidvania title, Hollow Knight, would have been too ambitious, so they had to split off a huge portion of the game and decided, you know what, let's just keep adding more, and they developed it into a separate title. What's more impressive is that Team Cherry consists only of 3 people. Ari Gibson, William Pellin, and Jack Vine, 3 insanely talented people who managed to obtain such a big cult following for their title that whenever they actually announced the release for their game, many other indie studios delayed their release because they didn't want to get overshadowed by the release of Hollow Knight Silksong. That was probably the right thing to do, however, because on release, the Steam servers were having such difficulty processing the traffic that many people actually weren't able to buy the game on release for some time. The only other time I can remember this happening, at least in recent memory, is when Dopeyvox released Elden Chapter 3+4. Now, onto the game itself. Silksong, as I'm going to refer to it from now on, is a Metroidvania title and possibly one of the most anticipated games of the decade, up there with the likes of GTA 6. Team Cherry, again, creates a sprawling world that leaves you lost in its world building, characters, and with a great soundtrack, new combat system, and all the lore you could ask for to get yourself lost in. All I have to say is, go play the game for yourself. Unlike a lot of the other titles on this list, Silksong is only $20. For reference, Monster Hunter Wilds is $70, and it's on most platforms. However, if you want the full experience, you should go play their previous title, Hollow Knight, as it might help you get more used to the genre as a whole. As fans have stated, it's quite a big of a difficulty jump from the previous game. That about wraps up my thoughts. For those of you who skipped to the end, Hollow Knight Silksong is probably going to be Game of the Year, as the immense anticipation for the game and good reception has sent shockwaves in the game community. This is also followed very closely by Clair, Obscur, FHNtoday, as I can easily see it winning, as most of the contribution is actually less audience focused and more execs, so they might prefer a more AAA looking Unreal Engine title rather than an indie title. Before you go, some honorable mentions that are yet to be released that could shake up the rankings a little bit. Silent Hill F, another installment in the Silent Hill series that frequently gets nominated, goes to Toei, a sequel to the 2020 nominee Ghost of Tsushima. Pokemon ZA, the Pokemon side of the Nintendo release. Outer Wilds 2, the sequel to The Outer World, nominee back in 2019. Borderlands 4, another installment that has received nominations for both the second and third release. And of course, Hades 2, sequel to the 2020 nominee Hades. Anyways, if you have any comments or other opinions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below, because everyone's gaming experience is unique, and I would love to see what other people think. Anyway, this was Yuan Yang, signing off.